just when you thought it was safe to go back in the water. Yes, now we have Jaws 2, the 45th anniversary edition in 4K, in stunning 4K. And we'll have a fun time talking about it. And I'm also going to tell you a little bit about my history with the Jaws franchise and how I almost, well, it wasn't almost, I kind of, sort of saw this movie in the theater. How did you kind of, sort of? And then we'll have to talk about Jaws, because how can you talk about Jaws 2 without Jaws? You can't. And then we have to talk about Grease, because how can you talk about Jaws 2 without what? Oh, you'll find out. You'll find out. I'll tell you. Right. You're saying, well, Dave, but wait a minute. This didn't happen. Dun, 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 dun. No, that's not what happened. But we'll get there. Well, why don't we start with an unboxing, and we'll get to the other stuff in a minute. So here's the disc artwork. Very nice. Has this nice sticker on it. There we go. Looks nice. I'll put it here. Okay. Right. No difference in the disc art. And then, we have Jaws 2 in Blu-ray. This looks like a DVD to me. And then we have Jaws 2 in the 4K with the picture disc with the original poster art. That's nice. I didn't go out and get the steelbook or anything like that. I figured, hey, we'll stay consistent, and it's a little bit cheaper. And I like this original poster art better than I like the steelbook. I mean, I take the steelbook, but so I've always had a soft spot in my heart for this movie. So let's talk about let's just talk about the disc and the transfer and the sound just quickly. And then we'll go on and we'll talk about some other things. To my eyes, this looks like the best Jaws has ever looked. Jaws 2 has ever looked. And it looks great. While definitely not a reference disc, I have no complaints. The glint or sparkle on the water looks amazing in HDR. This version of the shark has always looked a little fake to me, so I don't think 4K resolution hurts or helps at this point. And I also don't think that the transfer looks hazy in some scenes, as some have stated. But I think the transfer was really well done. Now, would it be always better to have the option for Dolby Vision rather than HDR? Sure. But the HDR does the job. The audio, 2.0 audio, right? It's stereo. It's fine. You're not going to get like the subwoofer presence. You're not going to get any back channels or anything like that. But it gives you kind of, if you're into original audio, this is probably, I'm assuming this is the original track. And it sounds fine. Sounds very clean. There were a couple spots where I had a little trouble understanding some dialogue, but that might, I'm getting older, so maybe I just can't hear. But it wasn't bad, and I didn't mind it. Would it be better to have the option of a 5.1 or something like that? Sure. But this is fine. This will work. Okay. Let me tell you about my Jaws story. All right, so back in 1975, I was 4 years old, and I couldn't go see that film. And my parents weren't going to take me to see that film because they always hated films like that. They still do. It wasn't their thing. So it's very rare when I went to see something like that. But you'll see in a second. Jaws, the original Jaws, was so iconic. Really from the beginning, with the poster art and the shark going after the swimmer. And it was very scary. And to think, as a 4-year-old and a 5-year-old and a 6-year-old, that there was this monster and it was under the water. And when I went to the beaches on the East Coast, beaches like Revere Beach and Salisbury were the main beaches that I went to. And this idea that if you went into the water and you went too far, you might encounter Jaws. And so, I'd still go into the water sometimes, but I'd be afraid. I'd be looking around, looking for a shark. And back then, I don't think we had sharks like this. We didn't have these like huge man eaters on the East Coast. We may have had sharks, but I don't think we really had much for shark encounters or shark attacks back then. But I had, like a lot of kids my age, I had the Jaws trading cards, and I had this Jaws toy. It was a Jaws game, and it was made of plastic, and had these. It has these hinged jaws, right, that would close on you, and you'd put this. It was like it's supposed to be like ocean junk, right? So it was supposed to be, you know, wagon wheels and old fish bones. It was all made of plastic, and they had all sort of license plates and stuff. And you would have a hook, and it was a spring shut jaw. I think it used rubber bands, and you would try to take out the license plate and stuff without touching the jaws. Because if you touch the jaws themselves, they'd snap shut, and then you would lose the game or whatever, whatever it was. I used to play it all the time, but sometimes I probably lost the hook or something, and I'd go and try to grab stuff with my hands, and it would crunch, and it would hurt. It would hurt. It would, it wasn't enough to break bones, but it was very painful. And, it was the 70s. They didn't care. They didn't care if you got hurt. So anyway, besides that, I saw Jaws originally on TV. So that's originally how I saw that movie, because back then, if you didn't see a movie in the theater, you were out of luck. It was basically the same thing with Jaws 2. And it wasn't really until the mid 80s when most people started to get VCRs. And maybe even at that point, most people didn't have them. But VCRs started to become a bigger thing. And then there were video stores like Blockbuster. We didn't have Blockbuster in our area. We had a small video store that used to be a record store that I hated. I hated that store. I won't mention that. They don't exist anymore. So here's what happened. Jaws 2 came out, and I bugged, right, my mother to take me to see Jaws 2, and she didn't want to do that. And I would say, Jaws, Jaws, Jaws. And eventually she relented, and she brought me to the cinema. And we went to see Jaws 2. Well, truly, in the lobby, she looked up and she said, Grease is playing. I'd rather see Grease. Why don't we go see Grease? And I said, Jaws, 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 no, Jaws, Jaws, Jaws. So she said, all right, I'll take you to see Jaws. So we went into the theater, and eventually the lights go down, and the film projects, and the music comes up. And I turned to my mom and said, let's go see Grease. Let's go see Grease. And so we did. We left the theater. So I saw like 5 minutes of Jaws 2, but I did see it in the theater, kind of almost, right? That's why I said I kind of almost, maybe, sorta, saw it in the theater. We went to see Grease and missed like the first 5 minutes or something of it. The opening scene. The opening scene when we came in on the first musical number. So anyway, that's my story, right? That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. This is a fun movie that's better than can be expected when you consider it's a sequel, and a sequel to maybe one of the greatest movies ever made. And they fired the director, some of the cast, and went in for a major rewrite. Now, it certainly is a joy to see much of the cast back together again. There's some great iconic moments in this film and some big action set pieces. Who can forget the shark versus the helicopter? Shark versus water skier and ski boat. Shark! Right? And I know what a shark looks like. I've seen one up close, and you better do something about this one, because I don't intend to go through that hell again. and Brody running down the beach taking aim at the water. Now, the film plays out like Camp Crystal Lake meets Jaws, with a lot of teenagers being stalked by a slasher monster, in this case, of course, a shark. All things considered, I think Universal did a good job on this disc. And if you like the film, I would recommend that you pick it up. I know that every 4th of July, I rewatch Jaws. Jaws 2 will definitely become a tradition in our household. Are you going to pick up Jaws 2? Did you already pick up Jaws 2? Which edition? Let me know in the comments. Now, if you like movie reviews, physical media, cord cutting, home cinema, please consider subscribing to the channel. Until next time, check out our written reviews on our website, and I hope to see you here back next time, and I also hope to see you on the radio. I'll see you next time.